I mean, I think Lima was, at least for me personally, I can't speak for everyone in the team, obviously, but I think in general, the vibe was like, when you come into a grand final and you lost so many grand finals in a row and you finally managed to get past that hurdle, it was like quite a big step for us. A lot of people were saying, it's just a tier 2 tournament, the teams are not that good, this and that. But I think at the end of the day, it's more like a concept. The concept of like finally getting past that last step of winning grand final was just huge to us. And at the same time, it was also like a very hard fought tournament. We played 1 win, and 1 win is always very good against us. It's not like we said it in social medias as well. Like 1 win is for us, like they're very, very strong. And they even said after that we kind of gave them the curse now. They've been losing a lot of best of 5s, and it is kind of wild how it's for sure like a psychological factor. And at the same time, the Peru tournament, Elite League Season 2, it was straight after Riyadh. So it was a very rough travel period. We traveled there, and 2 whole days it took to travel there. And we were all pretty tired and exhausted from Riyadh. So the tournament itself ended up being really hard, honestly. Like for me, it was a harder event than Riyadh and TI. Just because we ran into a lot more issues. And I think maybe even running into those issues might have helped long term, because we had some talks, we had dealt with some stuff that maybe we didn't realize were like important before. But overall, I'd say, yeah, it for sure had an impact. Whether it was like the reason we ended up winning TI, I don't know. Like, it's hard to say. But it was important for us to finally win something again, because the last time we had won was 2020, I think October. So it had been like 4 full years. So it was a fun experience for sure as well. I think in that tournament, it was very different drafting-wise from TI. I think they're not that related to each other. We had some initial ideas of heroes. For example, during Elite League, the patch came out, and or maybe it was like just before, where Tinker support became a thing. Naga got buffed and became essentially like a tier 1 hero. But most of these heroes, if not all of them, we were already aware. For example, Naga, we already spoke about before Riyadh, before like 3-4 buffs to the hero. In Lima, I think our challenge in drafting, first of all, was the fact that I was head coaching, and I usually don't do the drafts, so I had to kind of figure it out for myself too, how Neda and I can work together. But then the other draft-related thing was more so we wanted to figure out a good hero for Nisha. So in the tournament, we ended up, throughout the tournament, we kind of gave him priority as like last pick, and give him good matchups, because we had the problem that most matchups we ended up giving him early in the tournament were really rough, and it was hard for him to come back into the game. So we ended up focusing more on giving him like a nicer choice of hero, and I guess that kind of led to Neda playing like Pango, because I imagine at that point our thought process was probably that it's just a staple hero and he's comfortable on it and he thinks it's a good hero. But then, of course, post Lima, the patch like evolved and people came up with new ideas, and there was a little bit of a break, and then we had quite a long boot camp before TI, so most of our ideas came from that boot camp. I think we had general ideas coming into the tournament, but like you said, the group stage it didn't really matter, like at all. But what matters is that you find like a nice balance between trying things out and still making sure that your ideas that you know work are still viable. So we did for sure try out a little bit during the group stage. We weren't as strict on, okay, we're only picking like these exact concepts that we're 100% sure, just to test out what also works in a tournament environment. But at the same time, it was still kind of following the same concept that we want to build on, which we then essentially really perfected towards the end of the tournament, where we had like a really stable system. But yeah, the idea, I guess, is in group stages like that, it's most important to not maybe try too hard in terms of like bringing all your best ideas on the table. But at the same time, you also don't want to try too little, because even when the games don't matter and you start losing, it affects your mentality. So we picked like heroes and ideas that we truly believed in. I don't think we tried anything like completely new whatsoever. I think everything we had played, we already had practiced at least a bit. And it's also, you kind of look at other games and check what works for other teams, and if there's something you maybe have missed. I don't think there were like many heroes that we felt that way about. So we just ended up sticking to the same system. And then once playoffs came around, we already had a better idea of, okay, these heroes truly work, and maybe like this hero pairing is even stronger than we thought, so we prioritize it higher. I guess in a way you just figure out the priorities for your heroes when you're getting to the officials, because you know that you're playing against teams and you're playing in a much more serious manner than during scrims. I think Spirit kind of swapped up their drafts, to be honest. I think they made draft mistakes in the important series, and if I remember correctly, they said something similar. They just didn't look as sharp as they were the days before, because initially coming into TI, I mean, I even said this to the guys on Spirit, like Artist and Konstantin, their social media leader or content leader. I told them that during scrims they looked really hot, like they looked like they were on fire, and I was just thinking, okay, this is just gonna be Spirit's third TI, you know, like the way they're playing is really impressive. And maybe it just turns out that our playstyles kind of maybe they had like an edge against our type of playstyle this TI, but luckily we didn't have to run into them again in the playoffs. I also think we could have probably played better, but again, it was group stage, and it wasn't like, it didn't matter whether we won or lost realistically. But whether they're both being two CIS teams, it's kind of funny, but I think it's just a coincidence, to be honest. So I think Spirit is just a good team, and they had like a good day against us for sure. They just played really well. And BetBoom, I think Save had like a really, really good game in game one, or whichever game we lost. I think he was playing Batrider.
It was second game, they're playing Batrider, Alchemist, if I remember correctly.
And then we adapted in the second game, and they tried to run the same thing back, but we just kind of adapted and it was like really good again. Because usually against BetBoom, again, is some teams you just have like an edge against them based on your playstyle, based on your history, I guess. But against BetBoom, for us, it's always like very winnable. Like I think we won like 1 billion series against them in a row, and it's just an unlucky draw for them to have to play against us, I suppose. But yeah, no, I think it's a coincidence it was CIS teams. I'm not sure, to be honest. I think sometimes when I look back at our drafts, we had a lot of different openers, and people kind of just have to choose which hero to play against. And Beastmaster is just really annoying, and Netta is just a really good Beastmaster player too. And even though there are probably better offlane heroes, there were a lot of offlane heroes that the pool that Netta was playing was very clear. So teams knew what they were going to play against, but they just kind of had to choose. And I think a lot of teams just prefer not to play against Beastmaster, just because you have to deal with his stacks. You have to like deal with having like a roar on your BKB core, you know, like this. It's just annoying. So I think teams that banned it against us, they just simply didn't want to play against it. And it's kind of the problem with drafting too, that you have to make a decision what you play against. And sometimes the better decision is to play against something that maybe you don't enjoy playing against, but it might not be as good as the other heroes. but there are always those annoying heroes. Like Broodmother is like a good example of it too. It's like no one wants to play against this hero, but it might not even be as strong as it usually seems based on ban priority. But yeah, I mean, that's probably the reason why. But it also changed a lot throughout the tournament. I feel like people couldn't really decide which hero to ban, and there was always too many heroes to ban for the enemies. So it made drafting for us very easy. No, we had more heroes actually. To be honest, I feel like it was... I can't remember a tournament we ever played that was this simple in terms of drafting. Because no matter what we picked, we always had like a hero we're happy with. We had like a very stable hero pool. And on top of that, some of our heroes were not really meta, but we were very comfortable on them. So teams either had to choose between banning the absolute best meta heroes or like our heroes, and you can't ban both. And there were just far too many. I mean, examples would be like Neda playing Doom and everyone else losing with it. But then teams have to decide if they ban like this 20% win rate hero against us because we're just gonna win with it. Or like Boxy's Tusk. Like Tusk, sure, it was like popular hero, but not like first pick, like, or you have to kind of ban it first phase or we're gonna pick it. And I mean, same with the Furion, like for example, Game, and they didn't, at least not against us, they never prioritized the Furion very highly. And then we had Windrunner that had to be banned, we had Visage that had to be banned, we had like Clockwork that had to be banned, we had Treant that had to be... There was just so many heroes, and I was thinking about it, I just don't know how anyone could have drafted against us this tournament. I think we were just in a very good position. Because usually it was always very hard to draft against Gaiman, but this time it was the exact opposite. They had like no really scary heroes that we had to deal with. There was like Alchemist, Brood, and a third core, which was it? I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But we first banned it like the entire grand final. Essentially, we just never had to change anything. And then they had to go out of their way to pick heroes that they're not comfortable with, while having to ban like 10 different heroes against us. So we were in a very like good position for sure. I mean, yeah, very much so. I think they were exactly in the position that we were in before. And to the public, it's always funny because people are like, oh, just ban this hero. But they don't think about what's already banned, you know? Like, you ban this hero, okay, suddenly you're playing against, like, Sand King. Do you want to play against Sand King? I don't think so, you know? Do you want to play against Furion? No. Do you want to play against Doom? No. Do you want to... You know, it just doesn't work. There's just too many heroes. And people that watch the games, they don't really understand, I think. That they just see, like, oh, Liquid picked Furion 3 times, you know? We did talk to them at the after party, and they said, like, in hindsight, yeah, they would have probably banned Furion and let Doom through. But to be fair, like, the game could have looked the exact same. Because if we first picked Doom 3 games in a row and they lost to it, everyone would say the exact same. So there is really no winning, you know? Like, and you can't know in the moment. Like, you can know afterwards, sure, but everyone knows, you know, in hindsight, it's easy to talk about things. But when you're sitting there and, like, preparing for a TI Grand Final, you know, it's not that easy. No, I think we were very, like, confident in banning those exact heroes. For example, the Ricky, we knew about the matchup beforehand, actually. So it wasn't like, it didn't come out as a shock. It's just, I mean, Nisha, for example, died first blood to him, but it's mostly like you're not used to it because you don't play the matchup very often, but we kind of knew how the matchup works. And we knew that Ricky very quickly will, the matchup will swing as soon as you have like a 4-staff or any save on your puck, and then you just coil the Ricky and suddenly the Ricky becomes like a creep. And that's kind of how the game played out too. Obviously, everyone played really nicely too, and I think our way of approaching how to play against Gaiman on a like strategy, like macro level was also very different this tournament. I think it helped a lot to have a lot of talks about it and have like KP also to reiterate like what we really wanted to do against them. But I think no matter what, we would have had the same bans, and I think if anything we can decide to play like slightly different heroes because our hero pool was so big, you know. But the most important thing to winning tournaments and we knew this beforehand too, but we never really managed to pull it off this nicely, is to like have a system and then like stick to it. And you have a system and you can like change like slight, like a few pieces of it. But at the end of the day, you do want to have that system, and you just need to believe in it, And if you lose one game, that's fine, You can lose one game. It's the best of 5, and we had just beaten them 2-0 with that exact same system, so there was no reason to change it. They have to like figure out the solution. We shouldn't have to like give up because we give them problems. They have to figure out solutions. If they beat us with one thing, maybe we adapt like one ban in the second stage or something, but they need to be the ones who figure out what to do. And that's kind of how we ran it. And then it worked, obviously. Of course, over the year, like we both, like both as in the old roster and 33, learned from each other a lot and kind of found a middle ground in our ideas and playstyle. But I wouldn't say that idea-wise necessarily there's that it's like, oh, he brings in all the ideas. It's more like our team always kind of worked in a way where everyone is supposed to bring in ideas and everyone is supposed to come up with solutions and kind of has responsibility to bring us forward. I think Neda and Boxy talking a lot about Dota for sure helped us with concepts and ideas. They would always discuss things very much inside and outside the game. But to me, it's also extremely valuable that he brings such a stable hero pool. I think our players are very good at playing a lot of different heroes and a lot of different styles. And I think it's very good to have like an anchor and in terms of strategy that you can build things around, because we knew Neda would play one of 5-6 heroes and not anything else. And being able to just have that, you start out with like an offlaner first pick and then you can build your draft around that. I think it brings a lot of stability. So he definitely helped making our gameplay a lot more stable. And, the games are not like too different from each other. You kind of expect what will happen in the game, and it's not like a completely different game plan every single game. And I think that's like a big strength of his, that he's very good at bringing that kind of stability. But yeah, he also often like comes up with ideas, or he knows like he talks to a lot of people about ideas. So he comes and brings concepts or like hero ideas that we might have not talked too much about, or that are just new and undiscovered. So he definitely has that capability. But in terms of like us as a team playing together, Dota on the map, everything macro related, I think it's more so the discussion between players that leads to us becoming a better team.